I'm Lulu Gaboo. A lot coming up in the next hour. But first, let's go to the news with Jalani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good day. Rwanda has filed an arbitration case against Britain over a cancelled asylum deal, which British Prime Minister Keir Starmer scrapped in 2024. Under the deal agreed between the two countries before Starmer took office, Rwanda would have been paid to take in migrants who had illegally arrived in Britain. Rwanda's government said in a post on X that it had submitted a notice to the Permanent Court of Arbitration, arguing Britain had breached the financial arrangements of the deal. Lobby group March and March is continuing to protest outside Addington Primary School in Durban, in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province, demanding that the 40 flood-affected learners be placed at the school. The protest continues despite a case of incitement to violence that is being investigated against its leader, Jacinta Ngobese Zuma. The movement has been protesting since schools opened for the new academic year. They are accusing the school of prioritizing children of foreign nationals over those of South Africans. According to the Department of Education, the school has reached its capacity and the 40 learners have been allocated at schools in other neighborhoods. However, parents say that it is not practical as they can't afford the transport costs to other schools.
We gave all the supporting documents and we are still told we couldn't find space. And they are saying children must be placed at Greyville Primary. So for an unemployed parent taking a bus or a taxi to Greyville, how are they going to afford that? And some of these kids are small as grade 2, grade 3. How are they going to travel alone? So we want them in the nearest school and this is the nearest school to them. We want our kids to be in school. That's why we are here.
Out of 1,500 and something children who are in Eddington Primary School, it's about 930 something or 50 around the foreign children who are in Eddington Primary School. And South Africans must be a minority in their own school.
The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry investigating criminality in South Africa's criminal justice system has ruled that KwaZulu-Natal Province Hawks Head Major General Lisija Sinona read into record the name of the person thus far referred to as Mr. So-and-so, allegedly linked to suspended Deputy National Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya. This follows concerns raised by Sinona's legal team that saying that name could endanger their client's security. The name pertains to a text sent by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi to Sinona. Sinona read the message in its entirety into record following the ruling naming Steve Mutsumi as Mr. So-and-so.
I am still going to that committee and I hope he doesn't mind me exposing him to both Sibiya and Steve Mutsumi. I hope you won't blame me for risking his life because I have to tell the truth about our meeting. If he thinks he can fool the committee, it's okay, but I will not say much, but to simply play a recording of our meeting verbatim because I have the record.
The family of South Africa's East of Johannesburg member of the Mayoral Committee for Roads and Transport, Andile Mgwevu, has asked for privacy as they process their grief. The MMC's family confirmed his passing after his mortal remains were found in Mozambique yesterday. Mgwevu's body was found with that of 3 others who were with him when their vehicle was swept away in the recent floods in Mozambique's Chokwe region. Rifilwe Mugoa has more.
In a statement released on Tuesday night, Mgwevu's family says the devastating incident has left them, friends, colleagues, and the broader community heartbroken and struggling to come to terms with the sudden loss. He has been described as a loving and devoted husband and a man whose life was defined by humility and compassion by making a difference in people's lives. The family says his passing leaves an irreplaceable void and his legacy will forever remain entrenched in the hearts of those who knew him. Details regarding the memorial and funeral arrangements will be communicated in due course.
And finally, President Volodymyr Zelensky says 4 people have been killed and several are missing after a Russian drone attack on a passenger train in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. The train was traveling towards the Donbas. 2 drones struck near the rails and a third hit a carriage, setting it on fire. The BBC's Sarah Rainsford has the details.
This route is used by local residents as well as soldiers heading home on leave from the front lines or their wives and girlfriends travelling east to see them. Ukraine's railways were always thought relatively safe, even in this all-out war, but not anymore. Volodymyr Zelensky is calling this drone attack an act of terrorism by Russia, for which he says there can be no military justification. Several people are still missing, and rescuers say DNA tests will be needed to identify the victims' remains.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459 for Channel Africa News. I'm Jolani Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, Novak Djokovic says he got lucky to advance to the semi-final of the Australian Open. And George Linde propelled South Africa to victory against the West Indies in the first T20 series match. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
This is Africa Update, your pulse to the continent. Stories shaping nations and voices driving change. Stay informed, stay connected, right here on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
It is 12:06 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, an OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. And you can also find Channel Africa's app on the Google and Apple Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram and YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +27 83 288 6684.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Today on #Africa Update, us Zimbabweans in the diaspora have expressed concern over the happenings in Zimbabwe. What is the best action for them to take to ensure the situation improves in their country? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram and at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +27 83 288 6684. #Africa Update Us.
6 decades of rhythm, resonance, and relevance. We are Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Tumeona chapisho mapema hii leo ya kwamba Wizara ya Mambo ya Nje ya nchini Marekani imesema inapitia upya uhusiano wake na nchi ya Tanzania. Pengine taarifa hii imepokelewaje na wananchi wa Tanzania?
Cha kwanza tumeiona taarifa ambayo imetoka hii leo. Sisi kwetu taarifa hii haikutushangaza wala haikutushtua, kwa sababu tulishaona taarifa kama hiyo imetoka kwenye ubalozi wa Marekani nchini Tanzania, ikiwa imetolewa na bwana Tom Pigott.
Umezungumza kwa kina kabisa. Haya ni malalamiko ambayo yamekuwa yakijitokeza mara kwa mara. Unadhani sasa je, wana hoja ya msingi?
Unauliza maswali mazuri sana na maswali ya tafakari. Maswali ambayo hayawezi kujibiwa kwa dakika moja au kwa siku moja. Ni maswali yanayohitaji tafiti, yanayohitaji kusoma.
Darubini ya Afrika kila Jumatatu hadi Ijumaa kuanzia saa 11 kamili hadi saa 12 kamili jioni majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:08 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The Progressive Zimbabweans Foundation has expressed concern regarding the current political developments in Zimbabwe. The PZF says these developments continue to threaten constitutional democracy, stability, and the well-being of ordinary citizens. For more on this, we are joined on the line by the Progressive Zimbabweans Foundation Publicity and Youth leader, Tino McLean. Tino, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good to see everyone.
Now, Tino, what are some of the concerns that you have?
Thank you so much again. Zimbabweans are facing extremely hardship at home with soaring inflation, unemployment, and lack of basic services. We don't have medication in our hospitals. We don't have good roads, potholes are everywhere. We don't have clean water for our people. That's why you see many Zimbabwe are forced to seek opportunities in neighboring countries. And it's heartbreaking to see skilled professionals leaving the country. And it's a testament to that situation. People are desperate for a better life, and we acknowledge that struggle. For example, we see many Zimbabweans, they come to South Africa, and the way they come, most of them, they don't have passports. And it's not like they don't have to have a passport. Passport fees are expensive in Zimbabwe. Not everyone can afford to have one. That's why you see many of them, when they come in, they come through Limpopo River without passport, risking their lives, getting killed, getting raped. So, I think us as Zimbabweans, it's time for us to unite and do something so that we can save our country.
Now, you've highlighted the fact that ZANU-PF are working on changing the constitution of Zimbabwe. Would this not help the country to stabilize?
The constitution in Zimbabwe, it won't help in Zimbabwe because they are doing it for personal gain and individual benefit. That's why you see in Zimbabwe current situation, there are some group of people who are benefiting, but the majority are suffering. So it's not a good thing for them to amend the constitution. So I think us as an organization or as Zimbabwean community, we stand firm against any attempt to amend the constitution because extending present term to 2030 undermines our democratic rights and steals our future. So what we want, we demand free and fair elections in 2028 as scheduled. And we fail to respect our constitution, us as progressive Zimbabwe and youth leader, we're gonna mobilize our communities and we'll meet in the streets and we'll lead from the front because people, they always say you guys, you march on TikTok, on Facebook, we'll lead from the front and we won't be silent, we won't be back down because our future is at stake. We want a better Zimbabwe for everyone.
Now, what do you make of the return of Nelson Chamisa? When we spoke to him earlier this week, he also noted concerns of the exodus of Zimbabweans into neighboring countries. Do you also share the same concerns?
I might appreciate the difference because if you look at the President Chamisa, the time he resigned, Zimbabwe needs him the most, and he decided to resign now. Now we come back and it's towards elections. There are some people who start questioning him he is playing with people's mind or somehow he work with ZANU-PF because he was supposed to be there when we needed the most, when we were supposed to go to SADC and tell them that our elections were rigged, but he chose to resign. And now we came, he said it's the same mistake because now we are towards elections. And when we vote, you understand, and they rig our election, what is he going to do? So what we need someone, or we need a movement for people who are really want a betterment for Zimbabwe, not someone who is benefiting from the current regime. So I think on our side, as a progressive Zimbabwe, we see him as someone who's trying to play people's minds, you understand, and benefit from current regime.
And what about his concerns of the exodus of Zimbabweans into neighboring countries?
Yeah, so he needs concern of Zimbabweans in neighboring countries right now. I think right now, I just want to say something very important, the way Zimbabwe lives in South Africa. There are some people who are saying South Africans are xenophobic. I think we are wrong on that one. Because this is in my sister, there are some Zimbabweans who are in South Africa and they are committing crime. They are robbing people. There are some people as well who are opening churches everywhere. So I think what we need to do, especially as Zimbabweans who live in the diaspora, we need to respect South African, our horses in their laws so that we can live with harmony and peace. So there are some things that we are doing here in foreign land and we don't do them in Zim. So before we blame South Africans, I think as Zimbabweans, we need to educate ourselves to order so that we can live with South Africa in a good way.
Now, very quickly, just in wrapping up, I have run out of time, but I have to ask this. What do you want the people of Zimbabwe to do to ensure that their voices are heard in Zimbabwe by the leaders of the country?
First thing, we need to unite, we lack unity among Zimbabweans. Because right now, there are some people who are saying, hey, let's do something for our country, but there are some people who are calling for division, especially Mutuaka. So, what we need to do right now, we need to work together as a nation so that we can build the Zimbabwe that we want. Right now, very soon, what we need to fight for, we need to fight for our constitution because it's our backbone. So let's unite as a Zimbabwe. We work together and victory is certain.
Well, thank you so much, Tino, for joining us on Africa Update. And that was PZF Information, Publicity and Youth Leader Tino McLean. And to unpack the issues facing Zimbabwe, we are now joined on the line by Tendai Ruben Mbofana, a social justice advocate and writer. Tendai, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much, Lulu. Thank you for inviting me on your platform, and good afternoon to your viewers and listeners.
Thank you. Now, you heard the tail end of what Tino McLean had to say, and I just want to start with that in terms of what are your thoughts on what he's calling for from Zimbabweans in the diaspora and what they need to do.
Yes, that was a very, very important contribution, observation by him. In any struggle against an oppressive establishment or an oppressive regime, you need the support of those that are outside that system, those who can speak freely without fear, especially those that are domiciled or resident in more democratic states like South Africa. We even saw that during the fight against colonialism. Even you guys in South Africa, you experienced that during your fight against apartheid. For the apartheid system or colonial system to be dismantled, it was mainly due to the mobilization efforts of your fellow countrymen, our fellow countrymen and women who were in the diaspora. They were the ones who were making our struggles be known internationally, such that without that international pressure, it's very unlikely that a people can expect genuine freedom to come anytime soon, especially when they are dealing with a repressive, brutal, heartless regime. So yes, I agree. Those that are in the diaspora, Zimbabweans, do not forget your country. Do not see yourselves not that you are out there. You are just there to make a living, to make sure that you fend for your families. Yes, that was the main reason that you went there. It was more of an economic issue. But you need to remember why that you were driven to such economic refuge. It was because of the politics that was going wrong in Zimbabwe. So in order for Zimbabwe, for those Zimbabweans in the diaspora to return home, if they really want to return home to a better Zimbabwe, to a more economically prosperous Zimbabwe, to a more democratic Zimbabwe, they need to fight at the outside, make the Zimbabwean issue be heard. Talk to governments, talk to foreign leaders, talk to them. Don't let the Zimbabwean issue be forgotten, so that they can exert pressure, especially SADC countries. They have disappointed us countless times, and I'm sure your previous speaker did allude to that fact. Elections in Zimbabwe have been rigged. State institutions have been captured, so for decades. But SADC has never raised a finger against Zimbabwe. Yes, in the 2023 elections, we did hear the SADC election observer mission saying that the elections fell short of the principles and guidelines of democratic elections. But what did the heads of state do? Nothing. They totally ignored their own report, and treated everything as is okay. But we see the United States invading Venezuela, and suddenly SADC leaders are making a lot of noise about that. We see the genocide that is taking place in Palestine, in Gaza. The Africans are making a lot of noise about that. What about next door? Why are we not concerned about that?
Speaking of next door, because we are running out of time, I need to find out from you your thoughts on the current political environment in Zimbabwe. And, is the country more stable now or more fragile than it was 5 years ago?
It's just as fragile as it was 5 years ago. There's not much of a difference. The major difference that we can see now is that the ruling party is more relaxed than it was 5 years ago, because there's no opposition in Zimbabwe. The opposition is effectively dead. So that's why you find the ruling party is now focused on amending the constitution to extend President Mnangagwa's term in office. They're busy fighting amongst themselves for who will succeed President Mnangagwa when he leaves office. When you find the ruling party now absorbed within its own internal fights, you can tell that it's not fearing any external pressure. There's no external pressure. So the country right now is in turmoil, just as it was 5 years ago. But it's what is more problematic is that there is no voice today that can stand up and hold the government to account.
Now, speaking of a voice that would hold a government to account, we spoke to Nelson Chamisa, and he now has created a new movement or a leadership in terms of what he wants to do in Zimbabwe. What are your thoughts on this movement that Nelson Chamisa has started?
Yes, it's always welcome to have a strong voice, on the political platform, as he chose to describe it, as the dance floor. But what matters more is not whether we have someone on the dance floor or not. What matters is the dancing effect. So in the return of Chamisa, he's very popular. No one can deny that. But as your previous speaker already said, people have sort of, become frustrated. They've lost hope. A lot of sections of Zimbabweans don't even know whether to trust him anymore. If you're in the middle of a struggle, and one of your leaders decides to take a sabbatical from a struggle, then when he feels like it, he feels like, okay, now I'm ready to come back, and he comes back while you've been burning on your own all this time. It becomes a bit problematic for Zimbabweans to take him seriously. So you'll find that, it's good that he's back, but we are still, looking at it skeptically and say, why now? And what is going to be different? Has he learned anything from past mistakes? And when the kitchen becomes too hot, will he not bail out again? So we are a bit apprehensive about that. But it's good that he's back.
Tendai, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. That was Tendai Ruben Mbofana, social justice advocate and writer, joining us on the line.
As 2025 draws to a close, we pause to honor the spirits that connect us. The festive season reminds us of what truly matters: family, community, and unity. No matter where you gather or reflect, Channel Africa is with you, bringing you stories and voices that are shaped by the African perspective.
Something significant happened on this day. Asanda, you were a baby, I'm sure. I'm not even sure if you were born. No, you were a baby, yeah.
Yoga. Matseko is still trying to convince me and look me over.
I've done that already, and you're going to come now on the journey.
I will try.
From all of us to all of you, may your season be safe and peaceful. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 23 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. South African civil rights organisation Action Society is calling for decisive sentencing, mandatory placement on the National Register for sex offenders, and the public release of the register to prevent known offenders from quietly returning to spaces where children are most at risk. It comes after, they say, repeated failures in the justice system leave children exposed to known predators. And to discuss this further, we are joined on the line by a spokesperson for Action Society, Juanita Dupré. Juanita, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, how common is it for known offenders to remain in communities despite clear warning signs?
Well, there are no real statistics that we can believe because the sex offenders register is not made public. The Minister of Justice said in February last year, after countless requests for this register to be made public, she said in February it will be made public by the end of that month. It's still not. Then she came back and she said, no, it's going to happen in phases and so on. We've heard nothing again of that. So it seems like she is a bit of a liar. And because court records are sealed, and especially when it's minors involved, we don't know how many people are not on the register or are walking around when they should not be around children because we don't have access to any of the statistics. And it's frightening because we have another case where it was the school transport driver, and he's a co-owner of the creche, and he was the one molesting a little 4-year-old girl. So you don't know who you can trust.
And how would compulsory inclusion on the National Register for Sex Offenders change the outcomes? And, in terms of how would it work if somebody lives in a certain area or in a certain street and people are aware of it? Obviously that will heighten security in terms of people will be more alert, but what does that mean going forward?
Yes, that is how we visualize it going forward. If you look at other countries, you get an alert to say that somebody with a less than ideal background has moved into your area because they have to report when they move from area to area. At the moment, how our sex offenders register work is people can, and this is only employers of people who work with children, they can do an application to see if that specific person is on the list. So you cannot see the full, complete list as a normal person or as an employer. You can just ensure that the person you want to employ is not on that list. So it would be much more ideal and safer for the community if you, not even just children, for women as well, because then there's an offender in your area. If you can at least have, for a start, just access to who this person is, what they did, and where they are residing at the moment, because then you can take steps to protect your children and protect yourself if you're a woman. But in other countries, like I said, they have alerts going out and saying this person is now in your area, so be cautious.
Now, I just want to touch on something, and I'm not sure whether you realized you were doing it while you were doing it. The fact that even saying it out loud, the choice of words, somebody who is less than ideal, who has a less than ideal background moving into an area, that just, it sounded uncomfortable for you saying it out loud. Do we not need to start with that? The fact that we need to be quite firm about what it is, what message is being sent across. That Juanita is saying, this person is a sex offender, or this person is a pedophile, and so on.
I agree with you 100%, and I should have said it stronger. English is not my first language, so sometimes the words fail me. But I do agree with you. We have to be firm. We have to say, this is a sex offender. This is a child rapist. This is somebody who had sexual offense or have sexual offences against themselves or committed sexual offences. We should call it by its name.
Yeah. How can communities better protect children when the system is failing? And is there a risk that offenders are being prioritized over victim safety?
Yes, we find that in the cases that we are involved with, there are so many loopholes and so many rights for the offender that we completely forget about the rights of the victim. In most of the cases, we see such a long delay, which is also an injustice being done to them because they have to relive it every time. But the rights, the delay upon delay, because they have loopholes, it's not loopholes, it's legal procedure that allows them to let cases drag on and on and on and on. For example, there was another case now in the Western Cape. It's the longest case on record, and there's been no sentencing yet. 16 years. And now I think it was postponed to August this year for final sentencing. But this is obviously the longest running. But we have cases 3.5 years ongoing. So it is the right victim versus offender is definitely not balanced, and it's legal. And then how we can protect our children in our communities, our women, the vulnerable people, is we really have to start looking out for each other, and not just say my kids are my kids and I don't care what happens to other kids. We really have to be more cautious and be aware of what is going on
in our
around
communities,
you, because we don't have the necessary legal resources available to us at the
Now,
moment.
just in 15 seconds, Juanita, your message to lawmakers and the Justice Department right now.
Get moving on the National Register for Sex Offenders. Make it available to the public.
Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. That was a spokesperson for Action Society, Juanita Duprier, joining us on the line. It is 12:31 and our news update up next.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines, Rwanda says it has filed an arbitration case against Britain over a cancelled asylum deal which British Prime Minister Keir Starmer scrapped in 2024. Lobby group March and March is continuing to protest outside Addington Primary School in Durban, in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province, demanding that the 40 flood-affected learners be placed at the school. And finally, President Volodymyr Zelensky says 4 people have been killed and several are missing after a Russian drone attack on a passenger train in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Stay tuned to Channel Africa. Stream us on our new and updated website, channelafrica.co.za. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
In this hour, we serve off with tennis news. Novak Djokovic's quest for a record Grand Slam title continued in dramatic circumstances after 5th and seed Lorenzo Musetti quit the Australian Open quarterfinal match with an injury after taking a 2-set lead at Melbourne Park on Wednesday. Musetti's retirement, when leading 6-4, 6-3 and 1-3, meant Djokovic pulled off a great escape at his most successful hunting ground, with the 10 times champions bid for a standalone 25th major to break the tie, with Margaret Court still alive. 5th seed Elena Rybakina booked her place in the Australian Open semi-final with a dominant second-set display to hand 6-time Grand Slam champion Iga Swiatek a 7-5, 6-1 defeat at Melbourne Park. Looking to lift the trophy for the first time, 28-year-old will take on either Jessica Pegula or Amanda Anisimova for a place in Saturday's final.
Yeah, really pleased with the win. Thank you so much for supporting, coming. It's really nice atmosphere. Yeah, we know each other pretty well, and I was just trying to stay aggressive, and I feel like in the first set, for both of us, the first serve was not really working, so we were trying to step in on the second serve, put pressure on each other, and I think in the second I just started to play more free, serve better, and yeah, I'm just really happy with the win.
And in bowling news, George Linde starred with figures of 3 for 25 as South Africa beat the West Indies in Paarl to take a 1-0 lead in the T20 series. Linde dismissed Roston Shays, Shimron Hedmeyer and Jason Holder. Despite his impact, the spinner admitted he didn't feel he played too well.
To be honest, I didn't feel good with the ball, but I still tried to find a way to be effective for the team. I think I've learned through the years now, you don't have to fight it. If you feel like that's on the day, then it is what it is, just trying to find a way to be good for the team.
For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fide Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu masuala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli. Hili jukwaa ni la kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu. Ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako na kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon, I'm Nosipho Zuma. In your business news this hour, South Africa will present measures by the end of February to boost local vehicle production, including reviews of luxury taxes on imported cars and import tariffs. The country lost its long-held position as Africa's largest vehicle producer to Morocco this year. Chanduko Lekeke has more.
The South African government is reviewing its automotive policy to address challenges, including the global shift to electric and hybrid vehicles, tighter emission standards, evolving trade dynamics, and rising competition from low-cost Chinese and Indian imports. Chief Director of Automotives at the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Mkhululi Mlota, told lawmakers his department is conducting a comprehensive auto policy review, which he says has been a slow process in parallel with addressing concerns raised on local production.
The South African Portfolio Committee on Mineral and Petroleum Resources has raised concerns about their Eastern Cape Province office, citing its failure to adequately regulate the mining industry and enforce strict compliance within the province. Now, the committee visited the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro following reports of illegal sand mining in the area. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Mekateko Mahlaule, says the Eastern Cape Regional Office has been experiencing backlog in processing mining rights and permits due to staff shortages.
The department as well, the regional office, has been lacking in terms of enforcement of the law. The law is a law, it's not how you feel. They've been exercising their feelings instead of the law, where transgressions are occurring. We want them to explore, you see, the coal belt. They haven't given us enough information on who are the interested parties there who have applied for rights and so forth.
President of the African Credit Ratings Association, ACRA, Sfiso Falala, says Africa is in a position to establish its own credit rating body to help address long-standing gaps in the continent's financial sector. Now, this follows the launch of ACRA in Johannesburg, where delegates engaged in high-level dialogue on redefining Africa's credit future, focusing on transparency, credibility, and homegrown solutions that reflects Africa's economic realities. Falala says it is time for Africa to establish institutions that will drive economic growth.
If you look at the global economics and the way
African countries have started to grow and started to overcome their structural problems economically, as well as the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area, everything seems to point to the fact that Africa needs to take the initiative and begin to build institutions and assets within the continent that will help it to grow. So the moment is very opportune because we believe that African economies should be growing at a faster rate than previously.
The African Union's ratings watchdog has warned that Fitch Ratings risked misinformation or misinforming investors if it could continue to issue credit assessments of Afrexim Bank after the lender severed its ties to the Big Three firm. Afrexim Bank announced the decision, citing concerns over the quality of the agency's approach. In a statement, the AU's African peer review mechanism says it considered Afrexim Bank's decision justified. Fitch cut Afrexim Bank's credit rating to one notch above junk status in June, citing high credit risks and weak risk management policies, and put it on a negative outlook. And finally, India stopped exporting diesel to the European Union this month due to the EU's ban on fuel derived from Russian crude. India has instead sent a record amount of West Africa. Shipping data from Kepler and Voltexa showed while Turkey's diesel exports to the EU slowed in recent months. The developments highlight that the EU policy aimed at punishing Russia over its 2022 full-scale invasion of Ukraine is prompting a further reordering of intercontinental oil flows, forcing India's oil refineries to seek new markets and disrupting Turkey's lucrative trade in supplying fuel to the EU. Your financial indicators: one US dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 409. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 29. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 09. And in Zambia, it's 19 kwacha 61. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 rubles 24. Russia is 76 rubles 45. India is 91 rupees 63. China at 6 yuan 95. And in South Africa, $1 is trading at 15 rand 98. $1 is trading at 72 pence to the British pound and 83 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $5,281 and platinum at $2,690 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $67.69 a barrel. Now, for any business stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nosi Posoma.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. The sound of Africa is evolving. Experience our new mobile app. Free to download. Free to connect. 6 decades strong, Channel Africa continues to inspire Africa and the world. Proudly sharing
the African perspective.
Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:43 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Thousands of teachers in Gabon have been on strike for the past 3 weeks, paralyzing the school system. It marks the first wave of social unrest under the rule of President Brice Oligui Nguema, who seized power in a military coup in August 2023. The teachers are alleged to have been angered by a 10-year freeze on wages. Nhlanhla Mahlangu has more.
teachers and civil servants in Gabon have been on strike less than a year after Brice Oligui Nguema's election over a long-standing wage freeze. Classes in Gabon remain suspended for the third consecutive week as teachers continue their strike action, according to local reports. The teachers' strike, which began on the 5th of January 2026, is a response to a range of unresolved issues, including pay and working conditions. Despite agreeing to negotiations via a mediator, the striking teachers have set preconditions for the resumption of classes. The collective behind the movement, which includes the National Union of Teachers, SENA, and the National Union of Technical and Vocational Teachers, and SOS Education, notably won the release of 2 union members imprisoned for supporting the strike. But while SOS Education has called for the resumption of classes, teachers are still staying away from school. The government has launched a fast-track review to clear salary arrears and status backlogs while resolving delays in appointments. It comes as the Education Ministry raised the budget from some $237 million in 2025 to $496 million for 2026. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Ndlandla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, today on hashtag Africa Update Ask, Zimbabweans in the diaspora have expressed concern over the happenings in their country. Now, question, what is the best action for them to take to ensure the situation improves in Zimbabwe? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +27 83 288 6684. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
A group of officers in Nigeria are set to face a military court after being accused of plotting to overthrow the government of President Bola Tinubu last year. The 16 officers were arrested last October after what was described as acts of ill discipline and breaches of service regulations. The case emerged amid heightened regional sensitivity to coups in West Africa and ongoing security pressures facing Nigeria's armed forces. And to discuss this further, we are joined on the line by Nigerian lawyer, writer and activist Douglas Ogbankwa Esquire. Douglas, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon, Africa.
Now, just how effective are military courts? In Nigeria. In Nigeria.
Well, to start with, I think the military authorities in Nigeria are actually misconstruing the law. Nigeria is not under military rule. Nigeria actually is in a democratic setting, and treason is actually a crime created by the Nigerian Constitution and the Criminal Code. So the military courts are not the proper forum to try the suspects. Reason being that this is not, if it were to be like a military personnel trying to overthrow another military government, then the military court will be imbued with the requisite jurisdiction to adjudicate over this matter. However, following the return of Nigeria to democracy on the 29th of May 1999, the jurisprudence has changed. So the precedent that was being attempted, the attempt to overthrow was to overthrow a civilian president, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So strictly speaking, though it was being carried out by the military, it is one that should end up in regular Nigerian courts, because the Nigerian Constitution has imbued on the Federal High Court the exclusive jurisdiction to adjudicate over matters that pertains to treason. So military courts actually are not the proper forum for those alleged coup plotters to be tried.
Now, let's talk about these cases that they are facing. Has information been made public with regards to the exact crimes that they committed and, of the alleged coup and when this was supposed to happen?
Well, the information is actually available on a sketchy basis. When they were arrested towards the end of around October, on about October 2025, the military itself denying that there was a coup. As a matter of fact, they indicated that they were being arrested for service indiscipline, wherever that means or meant. However, just a few days ago, the defense headquarters, through their communications department, issued a statement and stated that indeed there was an attempted coup and that they had carried out investigation on the culpability or otherwise of the persons who were arrested or pinpointed over the attempted coup, and that the persons would appear in court. That not much has been said about the operational plans of the alleged coup plotters. And you will know that in Nigeria, the last time such a news ever came up was around December 1998 under the government of General Sani. December 1995, sorry, under the government of General Sani Abacha. That was the last time we heard of an attempted coup in Nigeria.
Now, the latest development comes at a time when the West African region has experienced a resurgence of coups. We'll look at countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Guinea. Now, these have all seen their governments toppled by soldiers. What can this be attributed to?
Of course, this is actually the geopolitics of the Russians, the Americans, the EU, and the Chinese playing out in Africa and West Africa, to be very, very precise. So you would recognize that a lot of these other countries you have mentioned, like Niger Republic, Burkina Faso, and Mali, are pulled out of the ECOWAS. The ECOWAS used to be, which is the Economic Community of West African States, used to be a regional bloc made up of about 15 members, formed on the 28th of May, 1975 in Lagos, Nigeria. The ECOWAS had been able to establish a free movement protocol and what's close to like a free trade zone. But however, with these coups that have taken place, that has broken the symmetry of trade and movement in the West African region. So to answer your question, these military coups or attempted coups may not just be local in nature. They may have international geopolitical implications.
Well, because of time, we are going to have to leave it here, Douglas. But I'd like us to have this continue this conversation at some point and just go into more detail. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Always a pleasure to be on Channel Africa. Have a blessed afternoon. Bye.
Thank you, and to you too, Douglas. That's Nigerian lawyer, writer and activist Douglas Ogbangwa Esquire joining us on the line. And we have the Upside team already here. Matseko Musito, hello, how are you? Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day.
Happy Wednesday. Look at you, all in white, drinking your water, and just going about it. Happy Wednesday, lady.
Thank you.
The Upside coming through just after the 1 p.m. news bulletin. So happy new developments in the creative economy, it looks like, with the Department of Employment and Labour making an announcement that they are going to they've got plans rather to bring protection to artists, of all kinds. So this is, of course, an announcement that was published by Minister Nomakosazana Meth, and in her notice, she basically clarifies that actors, performers, crew members are going to be recognized as standard employees because they are seeing an increase in matters and complaints around unfair dismissals. So I think this is wonderful. We're getting somewhere.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
So we're going to have a conversation about that, which is very important.
All right, that's the upside coming up at the top of the hour with Matseko Musito and Teboho Lukuleni. A lot to look forward to. I know a lot of people will definitely be tuning in for this particular conversation. Well, we continue on Africa Update. On hashtag Africa Update, our Zimbabweans in the diaspora have expressed concern over the happenings in their country. Now, what is the best action for them to take to ensure the situation improves in Zimbabwe? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +2783 288 6684. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Channel Africa is evolving, and so are you. Stay connected wherever you are with our brand new website and mobile app. Stream your favorite shows, catch up on African news, culture, and conversations, all at your fingertips.
Africa is just a tap away.
Your world, your stories, now on the go.
Stay connected wherever you are